Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. Let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Another low turnout to the polls. Election leaders, that's what they're predicting. Now, David Scolding has a report published April 5th with a headline explaining how local election leaders are predicting that few people will make it to the polls for the primaries. Now, the report is filled with low expectations, they're saying that there's going to be between 10% to 15% turnout. Now, just in case you did not know, issue 2, which is an infrastructure improvement project funding is on the ballot. Well, the funding for that infrastructure improvement projects. Now, the report is worth a read and is also filled with valuable voting information. That's my story number 1 made of this week. Story number 2, $640,000 for Valley nonprofits. The Vindicator has a report published April 7th after the Community Foundation of the Mahoning Valley has awarded $640,000 in grants to 53 nonprofit organizations. $271,000 has been awarded to 3 affiliated organizations: the Trumbull Memorial Health Foundation, Western Reserve Health Foundation, and William Swanston Charitable Fund. Now, this report has the entire list of local nonprofits that will be receiving funds. That's my story number 2. Story number 3: Mercer County got $70K for facade improvements. Billy Jack Colin has a WFMJ report out of Mercer County. The headline states that Mercer County is set to receive $70,000 for a facade improvement program. Now, the report explains how the funding will help revitalize Sharon and Greenville downtowns and support Mercer County's home accessibility program. The report is filled with improvement projects and funding goals throughout the Pennsylvania Northwestern region, along with goals by the Pennsylvania governor. That's my story number 3 made in this week. Story number 4, $31 million for Valley projects. Rick Logan has a report published April 8th out of Columbus. Now, it appears that the Ohio Controlling Board has released $31 million in state funds to support 2 huge valley projects, according to the article. Now, the board has authorized $14.1 million from the State Capital Fund to assist in the Kilcolly upgrades at YSU. Now, $17.2 million will be released from the Department of Development's All Ohio Future Fund to prepare around 1,000 acres in Warren, Howland, and Wethersfield. Now, the upgrades at Kilcolly have a price tag of about $57 million. The Kilcolly building was constructed in the 1960s, with its last major renovation taking place in 1979. Thus, getting the story into the top 8. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Contract stir-up in Austintown. Dan Pompley has a report published April 9th. Now, it appears that Austintown has a contract conflict. The report explains how one resident accused trustees and the township administrator of questionable hiring and collective bargaining practices. Now, this is all after raises for 2 clerical workers were promoted. When they were promoted to assistant physical officer, the report says that they received a wage increase of 39%, and the other whom, according to the report, received a raise of 28%. Now, the article goes on to say that John Mashishka, who is making the claims, also accused Township Administrator Mark D'Appolito of intimidating clerical union employees to take 2% raises for each of the next 3 years, with some non-specified changes to the contract or receive only 1% increases annually. Now, this is all what's in the report. Now, this is word for word in the article. Now, the entire report is a bombshell of accusations, which also cite nepotism, which is favoritism and hiring practice. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 5 made it. Story number 6: what is taking place in Lake Milton? Lindsay Watson has a headline. Lindsay Watson and Madison Meeker, they have a headline out of WKBN. The report is out of Lake Milton, Ohio. Now, it appears that a stir-up in the township over failed communication and vehicle upgrades led to the entire police force to resign in Lake Milton. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you don't get up this early and you do want to check out the top 8 news stories, local and international, you can check out the website on the screen. I do upload the show on Mondays. So if you don't get up this early and you're interested and want to know what's going on in the news and catch up, this may be for you. Check out the show I uploaded to the website on Monday. Story number 7, pondering a property tax solution. David Skolnick has a report published April 9th. Now, it appears that Mahoning County Auditor Ralph Meacham has agreed with the masses that the current property tax system in Ohio is broken. The article goes on to say that there are ways to fix it. This is after the average property value in Mahoning County increased by 38%, in which the Ohio Department of Taxation determines the revaluation rate. Now, the piece goes on to say that he wants county auditors to make these decisions on how property values are determined. That's what it says in the report. Now, one key stat in the report is the fact that in Mahoning County, the total property value went from $5.36 billion in 2020 to $7.22 billion in 2024. Now, another key stat is the fact that the county's tax delinquency rate is 18%, with about $71.9 million not collected. Now, word for word in the report, about 1/3 of all property owners in Youngstown owe delinquent taxes, according to the auditor. Taxation without representation is a concern. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made this week for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Story number 8, what went wrong? Madison Tromler of WFMJ has a report out of Youngstown about Zoetic Global, which is a company based in Cleveland. I guess they just decided to do a U-turn after promising 30 jobs last summer in Youngstown. Now, the report goes on to explain how the refrigerant plant, which was set to have operations at the Youngstown East Federal Street location, decided to change course due to a security breach. Now, this is according to COO Charlene Grun. Now, this has left the company tangled in a failed lease agreement. Now this is yet another strangely sad situation in Youngstown, with claims of intellectual property theft and a list of other claims against Zoetic. Now, from the reader's perspective, the report may seem hard to comprehend at first, but earns out in the end due to the explanation of how the company has been conducting business. So there's just something happening in this entire report. And folks, this story is reaching its climax because this keeps happening in Youngstown. So that's why the story made it this week. So very, very interesting story. What went wrong? Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere in the media to be Ron West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8inc.com Media Center have that I need? small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Aunt Tasha, she said that you can be dumb and still make a lot of money.
Don't be deceived, okay? Just get the work done. Get your work done, graduate, you'll be successful. Don't be deceived. I told you that. Now hit the books.
Mom's not coming back, is she, Dad?
Low test scores again?
Every teacher is in here day and night, and it's not our fault.
Uriah aced her random proficiency test because you helped her. She's the first student in this city's district to ace that test.
So did he pay?
No, who only paid half?
Apply the pressure.
Hey, get that mess out of here!
Titi, you picked this district, Titi. I'm going to Puerto Rico. Me voy a Puerto Rico, Titi. Cálmate. Calm down. ¿Cómo que me calme? How am I calm down? You had us come here, Titi. How can I protect myself? That's all I need for you to help me with. How do I protect myself?
Oh, they're not gonna hurt you.
If this is what I get for being a good student and acing a test, I'd rather have failed.
I never told you that being good would be easy.
Clear target, cannot miss.
Home for his little girl. Take me.
They're in danger.
I won't tell you how this is gonna end, Laura, but my history professor once told me, in order to prevent a genocide, you first have to kill the dictator.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, it is Palm Sunday, and we are in the what they call the holy seasons Christianity. And it kind of makes you think about Christ and fitting in and rising up and after death and defeating death and going through the underworld and getting a second chance at life, and that just kind of makes you wonder, we had March Madness, and we're now in April, so kind of makes you wonder, did Christ have sports that he played? Was he good at sports? Just healing? Well, did he have some other gifts? Doesn't tell you that much in the Bible. Or what happened when Judas got up the next morning? He betrayed Christ. Did he read the paper? Was it top news, top headlines? And did he read the paper and then decide he wanted to kill himself? Christ's story is an interesting story because it has so many twists and turns in it. But it makes you wonder yourself, how do you fit in with the group? Are you like Brian, who if he doesn't want to play basketball, he goes out and misses layups on purpose so his phone doesn't ring? Or are you the cream of the crop in your group? Are you like Judas, always trying to make a few extra dollars and stabbing your friends in the back? Kind of makes you wonder. It's an interesting story, It's lived throughout the ages, and we're headed into Resurrection Sunday. So it's time to rise up and be with Jesus! Jesus! Be with Jesus! Everybody's still talking about the greatest story ever told, folks. So let's waste no time. Rise up! Let's get to story number 1. How is Trump doing a few months in? USA Today has a headline explaining how Trump's approval rating has taken a hit due to his tariff games. The report explains how Multiple polls published over the last week, according to the report, say that less than half of Americans approved of the president. Now, it appears that Trump is losing on the economy. We got the story in is the fact that we're only 3 months and a few days in, folks. The story is still developing. If you did not know, 54% of voters are opposed to Trump's levies. That's story number one made of this week. Story number two, deportations under Trump. Reuters has a report explaining how the U.S. Supreme Court will let Trump pursue deportations under a 1798 law. But there will be limits, according to the headline. Now, this is after the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members under a 1798 law, which is usually employed in wartime. Our article explains how this is part of the Republican president's hardline approach to immigration. But there's a but with certain limits. Now, the entire article is filled with what is going on in the immigration arena. The Alien Enemies Act is what is tied up in this headline. That's my story number two made in this week. Story number three, what's the fuss about college? Folks, there have been some stories making headlines that families have been devastated by college bills. Some people have even killed themselves and their family members because they could not pay. Now, sadly, people from all over the world are tangled in the education web. Now, this is after Trump has abruptly revoked student visas at dozens of colleges and may also have in the works plans to restructure and even dismantle the Department of Education. And what got the story in is the simple fact that either way, someone will have to pay, folks. This story is close to its climax. That's story number three. Story number four. Folks, people want a return on their investment. So what is going on? Stocks are on a roller coaster ride and investors are concerned. CNBC has a report by Ken Fisher stating that Trump's stupid tariffs will fail and the markets will rebound. Well, after Trump eased off of the tariff gas and hit the brakes in what he called a 90-day pause, the market rallied 3,000 points. Now, the reality is that the pressure is on everyone in this tariff game, and the president has everyone at the table. He now has everybody's attention somehow. Folks, this story is still developing. Well, folks, there are top four international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top four. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. I'm going to schedule you back in about a week, all right? Put you on 10 milligrams. If you need any refills, you got to let me know, all right?
I didn't become a doctor to drug people.
Give up on your dream, John. You cannot cure crazy.
He's one of my patients.
No patience. Well, tell him to stop coming here and robbing me.
Are you married? I see your ring. Yeah.
But all I know is I need you and you will need me.
Why don't you have your wedding photos up?
Well, I have my reasons for that.
No! You don't know anything about my patients, Kathy. You don't know anything about what these kids, these parents are going through out here. There's a jungle out here, Kathy. So stay in your lane.
I don't have a chemical imbalance. I just want to go home.
Together, we can make magic.
Please don't leave me this way.
I'll need therapy after this. Who want to check and see if I'm okay?
Hey, Doc. Don't let me down. Because those meds, they're working.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top four international headlines and developing news stories that made this week of Palm Sunday. And this is a time where a lot of people fast and give up certain things, give up bad habits, and you try to get healthy, have a bucket list, and You know, I've always wondered, why are people just, why do you give up something? Should you give up something? Should you just say screw it and just eat whatever you want, do whatever you feel, just do what you like to do in life? I learned that this week. I was over at my mom's house, and my mom smokes cigarettes, so I said, Lisa, stop smoking for a day, would you please? And she just likes to smoke, She sits in there and just thinks about the good old days, and not knowing that she's slowly killing herself and the people around her. She just loves to smoke, And she starts to crave these cigarettes, She wants the cigarettes. And when I learned about it, some people just have no willpower to quit. They just don't want to quit. They're just happy smoking and BSing around. And that's what we're learning in life, right now, is that there's some people who just enjoy just BSing around, smoking cigarettes, drinking, and their bad habits. They're content. They're happy with themselves. Just sit back and smoking weed, and the world is just going to keep going on, and I can just keep being me. And that's what we have to learn this Resurrection Sunday, is that some people want to be better in life, want to be better people. And I guess that's what Resurrection Sunday is about. Put it down and be a better person for Jesus. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Speaking of being better, RFK Jr. is busy. It's an interesting story about being better, and somehow when being better makes things worse. The Guardian has a report explaining how RFK Jr. has told the CDC to end fluoride recommendations for drinking water. Now, this echoes what took place in the chemistry and energy boom some time back. This was probably way back when things were just popping off. Now, the fear of fluoride in water is nothing new. It's been going on for some time. Now, the growing speculation around vaccines is also a concern because measles is currently back on the radar. It's been a few cases popping up in the headlines. Now, just to review what a vaccine is, it is a substance made from the germs that cause a disease, which is given to people to prevent them from getting the disease. Now, current debates have put vaccines back in the spotlight due to the question of if someone is vaccinated, does the process affect the DNA, thus causing rising cases of autism and other disorders. Folks, this story is still developing. That's what story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6. How is the housing market? CNBC has a headline explaining how mortgage rates are tied into the tariffs. Now, the report is focusing on housing costs, which are still near a record high. Now, the report explains how the average rate on the popular 30-year fixed low rate plunged 12 basis points to 6.63%. Now, the report goes on to explain how the typical U.S. monthly payments hit a record high for the second week in a row. Now, the bullet points goes on to explain how there was a 10% annual jump in new listings. Now, this is with active listings up roughly 28%. Now, the massive sell-off in the stock market early Thursday sent investors fleeing to the bond market. Now, this story is still developing. The estimated median price of a new home, if you did not know, is around $460,000. That's in 2025. So story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. For you, keep you informed, folks. If you don't get up this early and you do want to check out the show, I do upload it to the website on Mondays. The website on the screen. So if you don't get up this early, you can check out the show on the website on Monday. Story number 7, understanding economic behavior. The Hill has another important economic headline, adding to a number of economic points that have dominated the news. Now, it appears that the stock market sell-off may trigger a U.S. recession. Now, the report begins by explaining highlighting the indefatigable American consumer and how he or she has managed to regularly surprise economic doomsayers. Now, this story basically answers the understanding, basically talks about the understanding that economists have been saying for years, and that is that the economy is like a wound that basically heals itself over time, even when taking a hit. Now, the article does highlight some eye-popping numbers when it comes to credit card debt and spending habits, but this article succeeds at keeping it, basically succeeds at keeping the continued flow of economic opinion pieces in the headlines. That's what it succeeds at doing. Now, it just shows how the market is still the talk of a lot of circles, and what levers can be adjusted could spark another GameStop discussion. If you do not know, this is when the GameStop story basically hit headlines because some people lost their life in somebody messing with the stock levers. So the story is still developing because there are claims that the president himself is playing a game with the stock market. I mean, these are just some talks. It's not factual, but this is what's happening. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week, because when you play with the money, you're playing with a lot of people's retirement funds and everything else. Story number 7, big. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that I made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Story number 8, Trump tariffs, the talk of the town. Trump tariff game has hit the stock market in so many ways, and retirees are not happy. And then all of a sudden, boom, big day on the stock market. This is a roller coaster ride. CNBC says that the Dow surged 2,600 points, which was the biggest rally in 5 years. The Guardian has a headline explaining how Trump his pause when he paused his tariffs hikes, and on most countries except China, this is what happened. The stock market just went back up. Now, the entire article reveals what is actually taking place in the global markets and how retirees are being affected and people who invest. And the fact that when you pull some levers and you have somebody who's not afraid to pull these levers, things happen, folks. This story is still developing, thus keeping this tariff talk and money talks and stock talks in the headlines. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigating your stories just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week. Looked over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.